welcome to Rathod Science Academy. Today in this session, we are going to see current affairs of 1st January 2025. So first of all, I wish you a very happy new year for all of you. So now let us see the first article. Let us try to complete this analysis very fast today. Already it had been very late. The title says Manipur accounts for 77% of northeast violence cases. So this article is related to your internal security issues. So can you tell me some important topics which are part of your internal security from GS paper 3, guys? Terrorism issues, next. Cyber security. Okay, Maoism or Naxalism. Next, communal violence. Next, armed rebellion. Next, what are the examples that you have studied in your GS paper 3? Insurgency, okay. So here this article is saying about which state? Manipur. So can you tell me which are the states sharing boundary with this Manipur? Okay, so here you have to see two important dimensions. First one is Indian states sharing boundary, and you have to see whether this state is sharing any international boundary. So whether this Manipur is sharing any international boundary? Yes, with which country? Myanmar. Okay. So tell me Indian states which are sharing boundary with this Manipur. How many states? Assam, Nagaland, Mizoram. What about Sikkim? Exactly. Next, what about West Bengal? No? Okay. So see this Manipur map, and especially many UPSC aspirant, they are not very much clear with Northeast map. So what if you get question in your exam regarding this? So you have to be very careful, and Manipur is very important this year because of what? Communal violence, which is a part of your internal security from GS paper 3. And here there is a chance of getting prelims and mains based question. So from prelims you can get map based question. And can you tell me what is this communal violence issue in Manipur, between which and which communities? Kukis and Meiteis. Okay, so here you can get a question like Kukis and Meiteis are recently in news. So they are causing issue in which state? It will be very easy. But what if they ask question like in which of the following states Kukis are present, or in which of the following states we have Meiteis? So here exactly you have to know that community is located in which states apart from Manipur. So you can get that kind of questions. Okay, now let us see this article. So this article is saying that Manipur accounts for 77% of northeast violence cases. So can you tell me the states which are part of your northeast? Assam, Arunachal Pradesh, Nagaland, Manipur, Meghalaya, Mizoram, Tripura. Okay, so in all these states, so Manipur is accounting for more violence. So what might be the causes? Can you tell? Can you tell what might be the causes of increasing of violence in this Manipur? One is Meiteis and Kukis issue, which is because of reservation policy. Next, apart from this, insurgency from which country? Myanmar. Okay, apart from this, okay, now this article is saying that more violence which is happening here. So what will be the impact? Why we have to bother about this violence in Manipur? Why? What will be the problems that created in Manipur because of violence? First one is, can we maintain law and order? Law and order issues. Apart from that, there will be pakka for sure impact on vulnerable groups who are there, women and children. What about education? Disruption providing education. What about transport? If there is any bandh or dharna or something protest is happening on the roads, Can we ensure proper transport? No. Then the movement of goods, movement of people will be getting stalled. So that obviously it will be having impact on economy of that state. Like that, tell me what will be the other impacts. Uh, uh, refugee. Mm. Okay, increasing of migration to other places. Next, internal. Okay, internet shutdown. Okay, so these are the things. Actually, this article is saying about these impacts. So that is the thing which is given. Let us see here. So here this article is saying that there is increasing of violent incidents in this Manipur. So if you're comparing with 2022 and 2023, so in 2020 it was like 137 incidents, and in 2020 it had been increased to 187 incidents. That means we will be having law and order problem in Manipur. Okay, so it is the impact of ethnic violence which is happening between these two communities, that is Kukis and Metis. And what happens in that violence, especially there are attacks on women and even sexual assault on women, right? So that is the thing which mainly said here. So there are number of FIRs had been increased related to serious crimes like rape and as well as murder. So because of this, what happened, even societal norms had been affected. So because of this article is saying that we need good effective governance in that region. Okay, and this is the issue between Metis and Kukis which is given here. So here we have to solve this problem. So if you want to solve this problem between these two communities, so we have to see the history of where this problem had been arised and what is the important reason in the history. So if you are addressing that reason in the history, then only we can solve that. So that is the thing which mainly said here. And next one here is, we can understand that whenever this issue had been started, government is not sitting idle, right? So they are taking some steps, but it is very much clear that what are the steps we are taking, they are inefficient. That means we need to take some proactive steps. So that is the thing which mainly said here. Okay, and if you are not taking any action, and what are the actions taken by the government, if they are inefficient, then it will leads to increasing, or it will leads to exacerbation of this issue furthermore, so that vulnerable population will be get affected. So this article is saying that we need to have a comprehensive inquiry on this, and we have to go for informed policies, and as well as we have to go for informed strategies, which we have to focus exactly on conflict resolution. It is very, very important. And if you see the next topic, see the title, Quad members vote to work vigorously towards a free, open and stable Indo-Pacific. So what are the keywords here? So first one is Quad. Next, Quad is quadrilateral dialogue. Next, keyword Indo-Pacific region. So where this Indo-Pacific region located? Indian Ocean plus Pacific Ocean region is called as Indo-Pacific. So now tell me, is it a formal grouping or informal grouping? Quad? It is informal grouping. It is not a formal grouping. It is an informal grouping. So here, how many are the members? 4. So can you tell me which are the members of this Quad? India, Australia, Japan, and America or USA. So these are the 4 countries which are part of this Quad. So can you tell me what are the aims and objectives of this Quad? Okay, countering of China, climate change. Next. So see about this aims and objectives. So now tell me, what is the link between this Quad and Indo-Pacific region? So what exactly they want to do, these 4 countries? Okay, trade will be more. So they want to secure like security in this trade. Next, and they want to counter Chinese aggressive expansionist policy. And next, okay, control the island nations. Okay, next. So let us see this article, and this is important from your GS paper 2 under international relations, and you may expect here prelims and as well as mains based question from this area. Okay, now let us see the context. Foreign ministers of Quad member nations, so which are those four nations, India, US, Australia and Japan, they issued a joint statement. And this statement is about to have a commitment of maintaining free, open and stable Pacific region. Okay, because China is increasing its military assertiveness. It is coming up with expansionist policy in maritime. So they want to counter this. And if you see here, you have to know about importance of this Indo-Pacific. Why they are focusing on this Indo-Pacific region? Indo-Pacific region is nothing but the combination of Indian Ocean region and as well as Pacific Ocean region. So actually they want to improve the regional stability and they want to ensure rule-based maritime order. So this is the one important thing why they are going to come up with a commitment. And next one is they want to increase their cooperation, especially this region is very much vulnerable to disasters. Can you tell me some disasters in Indian Ocean, like tsunami of 2004? So this year is 20th anniversary. So there will be a question of tsunami or this 2004 tsunami for sure. And next, you can see cyclones. There is increased frequency of cyclones is happening in Bay of Bengal and as well as Arabian Sea. Okay, that is also one important problem. And even because of this climate change, there is also increasing of sea level rise. It is also again potential threat. So because of all these things, whenever these countries are coming together, so they will try to mitigate this climate change and they want to try to control this disaster. Okay, and even not only that disaster, but even they want to focus on climate change, terrorism and as well as economic disruptions together. And this one here is not only this Quad is only focusing on this maritime security, but even they want to control these tensions which is faced by different countries in the South China Sea. So can you tell me what are the disputed islands in the South China Sea between China and other countries? 3 islands. Names. One is Parcel Island. Next one is Scarborough Island. Next one is Spratly. So there are 3 islands in the South China Sea which are disputed. And these countries, they want to give the protection for the countries which are against China in this South China Sea. And even they want to improve freedom of navigation in these international waters. And even Quad is also committed to ASEAN, which indicates that yes, we are forming a bloc so that we are also supporting initiative of these ASEAN countries. Okay, so that is the thing you can remember. And especially you have to know about this significance of Indo-Pacific region. So this will be your main question. So nowadays every country is focusing on this Indo-Pacific region. So list out what is the importance of Indo-Pacific region. So here we have like 3 to 4 important things that you have to remember. So first one is geopolitical importance. So it is home to world's most populous and as well as powerful nations. Here India is located, here in this region China is located, and even Japan and as well as US. And next one here is economic growth. So this region is contributing to 65% of world population, and even it is counting for around 63% of world GDP. So economically also this region is very important. And next one is we are having some security challenges like territorial disputes, piracy, terrorism and nuclear proliferation. So because of this also this region is very important. We have to control this region. And next one here is because of climate change, so this region will be going to be affected the most because we are having coral reefs which are called as rainforest of oceans, and as well as we are having many biodiversity hotspots. For example, you can take Andaman and Nicobar Islands. So because of this, environmentally also this region is very important. And next one is there is increasing of Chinese rise. Okay, so because of this, what happened again? It will be having a threat for different countries. If you're not controlling this Indo-Pacific region, this entire region will be going under the dominance of China. It will be a great threat. So because of this, Indo-Pacific region is having a lot of significance. Okay, see this article. IMD, what is this IMD is about? Indian Meteorological Department. Okay, IMD predicts fresh spell of snowfall as cold wave intensifies across Jammu and Kashmir. So, what is the keyword? Keyword is cold wave. So opposite to this cold wave, what is the concept we discussed? Heat wave. So what is this heat wave and what is the definition? So what is the temperature at which we can call that area which is under heat wave? 40, 37, 30. Okay, 40 in plains, coastal areas, hilly regions, 30. Okay. So these two are extreme weather events, right? Will you accept it or not? So in the extreme conditions, we will be getting this heat wave and as well as cold wave. So I will be keeping under category of extreme conditions. Extreme climatic conditions, in fact. So now tell me, what are the causes of this extreme climatic conditions? What are the causes of this? Can I say vehicular pollution? Can I add global warming? Can I add climate change together? Yes. So if you see cold wave separately and heat wave separately, they are their own causes. Actually, now this article is talking about cold wave. So here we have to see what might be the cause of this cold wave now. Tell me, what might be the cause of cold wave now in Kashmir? Okay, so there will be the decreasing of temperature. So in this heat wave, there will be increasing of temperature, but in cold wave, we have decreasing of temperature. That is the only difference. Okay, so here now let us see what are the cause of this cold wave and what is the exact temperature to say that area is under cold wave. And from which subject we can deal with this? GS paper 1 under geography and GS paper 1 under environment and ecology. Okay, so cold wave, it is nothing but suddenly very rapid fall of temperature within 24 hours. Okay, so especially 10 degrees centigrade or below, it is 4.5 degrees centigrade, which is less than normal, or 2 consecutive days, we are calling it as cold wave. Cold wave is nothing but whenever temperature is less than 10 degrees centigrade, it is called as cold wave. If you are comparing with the normal temperature, if it is 4.5 degrees less than that of normal temperature, it is called as cold wave. For example, let us take normal temperature is 27 degrees. If it is around 20 minus 4.5, how much? It is around 22.5 degrees. We are considering it as a cold wave in this region. Okay, so that is the thing. And if you want to consider that is a very severe cold day or cold wave, so it should be at least 6.5 degrees less compared to that of normal. You have to remember this data. And what are the causes of this cold wave in India? First one is absence of cloud cover. So whenever there is no clouds, as you all know that if you are having clouds, they will be absorbing some amount of heat. If there is no clouds, means there is no absorption of heat, right? So because of this, what happened? There will be very cool atmosphere. And next one is normally Himalayas are present in temperate region. So that, and you know that Himalayas are very high. So what is the average height of Himalayas above sea level? 8,500 is the Mount Everest. Around 6,000. That means whenever you are going away up from this earth surface, the temperature will be decreased or increased? Decreased. That means there is high chance of getting snowfall. There will be no rain. There will be snowfall. So because of the snowfall in upper Himalayas also, there will be the cold wave, especially in this Jammu and Kashmir region. And next one here is there is subsidence of cold air over region. So whenever we are having high pressure, will the movement of air will happen upwards? No. So this air will be moving only downwards. So this is called as subsidence of air. So whenever we are having high pressure area, obviously we will be having cold temperature. And even La Nina. So what is this El Nino and La Nina? So whenever we are having El Nino, it will be affecting monsoons, right? So the temperature will be normally high in this El Nino. But in La Nino, opposite to that of El Nino, we will be getting good rainfall and as well as very low temperature. So it is also one important reason which is contributing for cold wave in India now. And even western disturbances. That means when our winds are coming from Mediterranean Sea to India, obviously they will carry good winds. Okay, that will also cause rainfall in Punjab and Haryana region. So this is the important reason where Punjab and Haryana, they will grow wheat as a rabi crop. Okay, this is the thing. And see this article, India-Nepal joint military exercise begins. So every year there will be at least one question regarding exercises. So they may ask, recently exercise between India Sri Lanka is in news. What is that exercise? Okay, let me write here so that you will get clarity. So first one is, here you have to see exercise name and you have to see countries. So now it is between India and Nepal. You have to see which exercise between India and USA, India and Australia, India and France. And you have to see again, we have army exercises, navy exercises, air force exercises, and recently coast guard exercises also in use. So here you may get a question like, consider the following statements regarding this exercise. It is between India and Nepal and it is army exercise, and this will be conducted once in every year or twice or biennial or once in 5 years. So like that you may get this kind of critical questions also. You have to be prepared. So if you see about this exercise, it is 18th edition. Even if you are preparing for SSC or banking or any other state service examinations, even that number is important, but UPSC will not be asking that number. Okay, so it is 18th edition of this exercise Surya Kiran, and it is a joint military exercise between India and Nepal, and they are focusing on increasing or enhancing of interoperability and as well as to increase collaboration between these two nations. So if you see some facts, it is a military exercise. That means Army of India and as well as Army of Nepal will be participating here. And especially they want to enhance about jungle warfare. Jungle warfare is nothing but guerrilla warfare. So who is the person in your modern history famous for this guerrilla warfare who participated in this 1857 revolt? Tantia Thope. Tantia Thope. Okay, so this is about jungle warfare. And next one is how we have to counter terrorism operations in mountains. And even if there is any disaster happen, so we have to take the army person's help for sure. So how we have to go for humanitarian assistance and disaster relief. Okay, so these are the things they are going to see. Okay, that's it. And see this article, 10 payloads of ISRO's POEM-4 module deployed successfully. So what is the keyword? You have to know about what is this POEM. So actually this POEM is related to PSLV. So what is this PSLV? Polar Satellite Launch Vehicle. So can you tell me the evolution of the series of the satellite launch vehicles in India? So what is the first generation, second generation, third generation, fourth generation? So first generation is SLV, satellite launch vehicle. Second generation is ALV, ASLV, augmented satellite launch vehicle. And third generation is polar satellite launch vehicle. And the last one is GSLV. Okay. So here this POEM is related to your PSLV. So actually Indian National Space Promotion and Authorization Center, that is INSPACe, said that we finally successfully established and we finally operated 10 payloads from non-governmental entities in this recent PSLV 660. In this we came up with this POEM-4. Okay, by using this POEM-4 it is very advanced. So we went for launching of this mission. So what is this POEM is nothing but PSLV operational experimental module. Okay, so PSLV orbital experimental module is nothing but your POEM, and we have 4 series in this. Now they used this last advanced series. By using this they launched this PSLV 60. So what is this importance of PSLV 60 mission? Yes, we went for space docking experiment. What is that name? SPADX. Okay, that is the thing. So PSLV orbital experimental module is a platform that will perform in orbit experiments. That is the thing that we did, right? So in this SPADX, we went for docking, means nothing but stopping. And so that we can go for refueling, exchanging of anything. If there is any satellite had gone wrong, we'll go for repairing, mechanic, everything. So for that, we have to do experiments in orbit. So for that, we need this technology. And finally, yes, we successfully done with this poem 4. Okay, so that is the thing. And it had been developed by Vikram Sarabhai Space Center. It is very important. They may ask like they had been developed by DRDO, DLRL like that. It is by Vikram Sarabhai Space Center. Actually, we already used it for the first time in PSLV 53 mission itself in 2022. Okay, so see here this article, COP29 climate finance and its optical illusion. So did India satisfied with this COP29 summit? So where this COP29 summit had held? Okay, Baku in Azerbaijan. Okay, so why India didn't satisfied? Because of climate finance issue and next technology transfer issue. Okay, did not talk about things. Okay, so just see about that. There is not much new here. So just see about what is this nationally determined contributions of India and what are the failures of this COP29. Why India didn't satisfy. So after COP29, what we had? Which summit? Global Plastic Summit in which area? Yes, South Korea. Very good. So see this article, the nature of dissent in the Indian judiciary. What is this dissent? What is your opinion means exactly? It is your right to say why you are not satisfied, right? So if we are teaching classes, if you are not satisfied, you will come and you will complain. No, that is called as dissent. Is dissent is a fundamental right? Yes, right. So here this article is talking about right to dissent. Right to dissent is so through the citizens are empowered to express their disagreement with government actions, with government policies or decision. So here this right to dissent, it is one of the basic principles of your democracy. What is democracy? For the people, by the people, of the people. If people are not agreeing, can we establish democracy? No. For that we have a right to dissent. Okay. So actually it is present in your article 19.1 subclass A. What is it? Right to freedom. Okay, freedom of speech and expression. So right to dissent is a fundamental right under this 19.1 subclass of our Indian constitution, and even judiciary and as well as citizens, they got awareness about their right to dissent, and even Supreme Court is protecting this right. Okay, and even there is increased awareness about this dissent. Okay, so that we are preventing violence and as well as hatredness in society. So why this is asked in news? Because unlike the US, Indian judges are not appointees of ruling party. So how these Indian judges had been appointed? So what is the process we are following? We have collegium system. So through this collegium system, we are appointing judges, either High Court or Supreme Court, and even transfers will be done by this recommendations of this collegium system, right? But in US, in US, judges are appointed by ruling party. So here you may get a question. Consider the following statements regarding judiciary. In India, judges are appointed directly by ruling party. In US, they are appointed by ruling party. So one statement will be obviously wrong. You have to select like that. So in that way, if you are getting that kind of application based questions in your polity, if you are reading current affairs, somewhere it will strike. I had read somewhere, it might not be correct. So like that, you can go for guessing something at least. And actually in 2017, in this Sharia Bano case, what is this case about? Have you heard this Sharia Bano case in your polity class? It is about triple talaq. What is this triple talaq? Okay, if husband says talaq, talaq, talaq 3 times, then it will be divorce. Is there any sense in that? But it was followed by especially Sunni community, not Shias. Sunnis will be following that. So do you know this Sunnis and Shias? What is the difference between these two communities? Why we divided them into Sunnis and Shias? On what basis? So who will worship only Prophet Muhammad? What about Shias? Hey, yeah, don't you know this? So Sunnis are the people only they will worship Prophet Muhammad, only the founder. But even his disciple will be worshipped by this Shias. Okay, disciples of that Prophet Muhammad will be worshipped by Shias, but Sunnis, they solely worship only only this Prophet Muhammad. So this is a major difference between the Sunnis and Shias. So for the Sunnis, so here they will follow this triple talaq. So finally in this Sharia Bano case, so Supreme Court struck down this triple talaq. That means here they also have the right, and if they are not following that, again judiciary is protecting them. So this is one example which quoted here. Just see about what is this right to dissent, and see about the recent cases in the Supreme Court which had been solved regarding this right to dissent, and how judiciary is protecting this right to dissent. That is a thing which is more than enough. And you have to compare judiciary of India with US because they quoted here. Okay, because in your governance, you have this topic, comparison of Indian constitution with other constitutions. There you have to compare Indian constitution with UK's and as well as France and as well as USA's, like that. So this will be the part of that topic. Okay, clear? So these are the important topics that happened in our today's Hindu newspaper. So by this I'm concluding. Thank you so much guys for watching. And today we conducted this topper talk session by Puneet sir. And it was a great success, and we'll be posting that soon in the YouTube. Okay, thank you guys for watching, and don't forget to subscribe to Rathod's IAS Academy, and please do like this class and share this class.